Quack, 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 quack. No!
Hell was that?
Until it gets copyrighted again, it's gonna roll every time. I don't care. It's gonna roll.
That is right.
And what is going on, everyone? And welcome right into the Voice of College Football's Oregon live show right here on the Oregon channel. How you doing, Nice Fast? Quickly.
I'm doing good. Ready to
Fantastic.
roll. Ready to hear from our guests.
Exactly. I don't want to waste any of his time. He is a busy man. If you haven't watched his channel, the description for his channel, the link for it is in the description, and I will be posting it in the chat. Welcome in College Football with Sam. He's a busy man over here.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
Recovering from this last weekend. So
yeah, we just forget the last weekend even existed.
it's like recovering still.
Did any of you actually think that Idaho was going to win, or did you just think that, wow, this is sluggish? But thinking subconsciously that you're still going to pull it out for sure.
Early fourth quarter, I started to get a little bit nervous.
I started getting a little nervous, but I was like, nah, this is not going to happen. We're just sluggish. We moved the ball. It just dumb penalties, lining up offsides, stupid things that killed a couple of drives in the first half that could have made it a lot easier. And our offensive line, it's funny because I'm on a lot of Twitter spaces and I do other podcasts here and there with people. And a lot of people were saying, oh, the O-line was their concern, the depth of the O-line. And one of my guys that I have attended games with and whatnot, he's like, everybody needs to stop with this. This is ridiculous. Well, after week one, they didn't look so ridiculous, my friend, did they? Yeah, the O-line is definitely going to need some work. But it's not really a lot of work. It was just, again, it's going to be that way this week. It was 90-something degrees. Fall camp really didn't get that hot this year. It didn't get hot until the week of the game. And now all of a sudden, here you are prepping, and it's 90-plus degrees, and you haven't worked in this all year yet. So I think that could have contributed some in the trenches as well.
What did you think, Sam? I mean, you're a national football guy. You watch as many games as you can. Obviously, you can't watch every single game, but I mean, did you look at that box score and go, "What in the hell?"
Yeah, because I was watching Michigan. For all intents and purposes, I'm just to be upfront. I'm a Michigan fan, diehard Michigan fan, but I'm pretty objective about everything. Michigan looked horrible in week one, offensively. Little asterisk on that because I thought the defense played very good. But I'm watching my team, and I'm not melting down because I don't do that anymore. I can't, just because I want to be objective. But it's frustrating to watch. And then I check at halftime. I checked Oregon, Idaho, and I'm like, 14-0. It's sluggish. But I watched Oregon do that against Stanford last year, and then second half they just destroyed them. So I thought, oh well. They'll win 40-0. They'll pick it up. I'm watching in the third quarter and I see it's 14-7. Not watching the game, but the box score, and I think that's weird. And then it's 17-14, and it's like we may have a problem here. And I thought Michigan's performance was horrifically inefficient and ineffective. Oregon showed that I think they are still a team with high ceiling, high potential. They had a few players out on the offensive line, which is why I think it looked the way it did, but that still concerns for depth. But to put up 500 yards and only give up around 200, 250 and only win by 10, I think is concerning from an efficiency standpoint and from finishing drives. And it's something that won't work against Ohio State. It won't work against Michigan. Before Wisconsin had their own moment against Western Michigan, I wouldn't have thought that would have worked against Wisconsin from a preseason angle. So I watched that game later, the highlights package twice, and I thought that Oregon just was inconsistent on the line. They didn't have a lot of big plays. It's clear that Dylan Gabriel's a downgrade from Bo Nix. He's not a bad quarterback, but he doesn't have, first round talent. That was really my takeaway from the game. I don't think that Oregon should be viewed as not a top 10 team anymore. I think we have to see how they play against Boise State before we make that type of judgment, because it is just one game after all.
I think that's fair. I mean, we did the post game, and it was like, that's the best way I've summed it up. And a lot of other people said it was a weird game. And we watched the presser with Dan Lanning afterwards, and he was pissed. I mean, he was doing everything to not just tell all the interviewers, basically all the personalities, just to not F off. Basically, he was so pissed. And even the presser today or last night, he did. He said he was tearing into those guys because there was just such miscommunication on the line because they had to move people around because of a couple of injuries. Bedford is back this week, though, he said. He said he expects Bedford to be back on the line. So that means Poncho should go back to center, which I think will help. No, he's not.
Bedford's going back to left guard.
Oh, God.
They're putting I just saw it earlier, Tuote, I think, maybe at center, and then Poncho on the right side.
Well,
or maybe Poncho switching to the left and Bedford's going right. But
either way, one of the big things he said was the miscommunication. That's why the O-line looks so out of sync, was the communication. Because, I mean, you watch Dylan Gabriel get sacked 3 times. Again, Bo Nix got sacked 5 or 6 times all of last year. Now, is Gabriel going to be as mobile or maybe as in command as Bo Nix was? No, I don't expect him to be. And I think that's something you don't realize now. Now you realize how good Bo Nix really was, though, actually, in this Oregon offense.
And the funny thing is if you look at Dylan Gabriel's stats, he can run the ball. He was effectively as a two-way quarterback last year at Oklahoma.
But Stein did that with Nix last year where he didn't want him to run.
Like, what?
Yeah, but
why are they not using any quarterbacks
saving it?
Any game?
Again, maybe they're saving it because they didn't think they needed to do any of that against Idaho. They shouldn't have had to do any of that against Idaho. With all due respect to Idaho played a hell of a game. They had a great game plan coming in, and they attacked.
Yeah.
Boise, though, I don't know what Boise's game plan will be, because Boise State's that team that gives Pacific Northwest teams historically, especially Oregon, fits. Absolute fits. We have not beaten Boise State in Oregon history.
Really?
We are 0-3.
0-3.
Interesting.
08, 09, and then 2016 Las Vegas Bowl, or 17 Las Vegas Bowl.
17 Las Vegas Bowl, yep.
It's a 10 p.m. kickoff this weekend, so that's going to be...
It's a late game.
Yeah, it's a night game for Oregon. You'd think there's going to be a bounce back, especially since, I mean, a lot of this, of course, is priors and preseason research, which is still very valuable this early. But Oregon's still like a 19.5-point favorite. And it's not like Boise State looked awesome in week 1. They gave up 45 points to Georgia Southern. And their strength is running the ball, which Oregon still did a decent job of stopping against Idaho. So I don't think Boise State will win. But
Boise State defense has some issues. They were on the road at Georgia Southern, so all benefit, to them, or all credit in the sense, because they were on the road. It was first game of the week, but yeah, their defense gave a lot. But their rushing attack, Genty, man, that they have a couple really good running backs. But Genty, dude, that guy was bouncing off people, stiff arming him. I was like, that's a big boy, and he's fast.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to plug the plug the lines and force him out to the edge. And let our edge guys contain him. If we could force him outside and contain the edges, we'll be all right. If he starts hitting gaps and going 60 yards downfield, he might be in first.
He had two 74, 75-yard rushing touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
So since he breaks the line, he gone.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we didn't use a lot of our depth neither. We only used 2 quarterbacks. We did not see transfer Jay Harris one bit. And it's just you didn't see Jaden Lamar. You didn't see Jurion Dickey. You didn't see a lot of the receiver depth. So you just like kind of scratching your head like going, well, obviously, if these guys aren't getting, maybe put another guy in, see if he can get a spark run. And they didn't. They just were like, we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll happen this week. If they start out slow, there might be some changes.
Yeah, that I'm looking at the box score here, and I didn't look at that because I just figured highlight packages and then looking at really Gabriel and how they ran the ball. But when Terrence Ferguson is your leading receiver and Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart are averaging like less than 7 yards per reception, like what do you make of that? I know it's week 1. You can't overreact, but there wasn't explosivity. All the passes were behind the line of scrimmage or behind the first down marker. It's like
everything was just like right out in front, crossing, slants, little post corners, just little shit. And I was like, what is this? It took kind of one shot downfield, and that was it.
That's kind of that is kind of staple of Will Stein offense, but they did try the shot. But then Dan Lanning said later is like they stopped playing the certain coverage where it just didn't open back up. So again, props to Idaho for trying to take that away. But yeah, there's a problem. And they just took the opportunity. Ferguson was open. Your tight end should not be your leading receiver in yards, though. Your tight end should not be the leading receiver.
Had 12 catches for 81 yards. And Leek Terry today, the offensive line coach, was wearing a T-shirt that said 2.9 YPJ.
Ooh. Ouch.
Yeah, so he was sending
rubbing it in the O-line's face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that was the other jarring thing too that you guys brought up. He got sacked 3 times. And again, I'm going to say it over and over. This is something I even said in one of my or several of my reaction videos. You don't want to overreact, but if you take anything away, it's that, you know, if this is a sneak peek of like the offense's floor, well, how's that going to look like against better opponents with better defenses? And there's a guy in Detroit who I used to listen to pretty often. He's pretty good at what he does. His name's Mike Valeni, and he's a national sports guy. And he talked about how he thought entering 2024, it's like the first week of football, doing like final previews and predictions. He said that he thinks the Big Ten is going to be Oregon's conference. Well, if Oregon wants to run the Big Ten or just win the Big Ten, how are you going to, how are you going to do that? You got to be physical. You got to run the ball, but you also have to, if you're going to run the Big Ten, you got to enforce your new non-negotiable upon the new conference. And for Oregon, I always thought that'd be their receiver core, their passing game, and their type of offense that they showcased over the previous 2 seasons that I thought last year Ohio State type of, they lost. Where Ryan Day used to have, Stroud and those receivers, and he still has the receivers, but they still have yet to display that same type of high-octane offense. And you just didn't see that from Oregon in week 1. I'm hoping to see that against Boise State, like score 50 points or score in the upper 40s and then wind it down in the second half.
Yeah, do what you did to Colorado.
And I agree with that 100%. I think we've been optimistic, but trying to be realistic. We know the definitely the challenges of the Big Ten going into it. One thing I have to say, and I saw some people comment on it earlier when I was watching some other stuff, is that remember too, Oregon struggled with Fresno State a few years ago, and then we went to beat Ohio State on the road the next week
the very
with
next
Anthony
week,
Brown. So sometimes a struggle fest might be a good thing,
especially to get it out early in the year.
Yeah,
like last year, Alabama was South Florida.
We're not Florida State, at least.
Same thing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had shots fired at Florida State.
No, it's Florida State looks. I mean, they. Oh my gosh, it's
Is DJU asking back in the transfer portal to go back to Corvallis?
It's
that man is broken. That man is broken. That poor guy.
I feel bad. I feel bad for him. Jonathan Smith really, that shows how good of a coach he is, that he made DJ look that good statistically and work the way he did in that offense. Because at Florida State, I'm watching Boston College destroy them, not just on offense, but on defense. I'm watching Boston College look competent on the defensive side of the ball. I'm watching Georgia Tech, who is outside the top 100, just whip that Florida State offensive line, just beat it into a pulp. It's just bad.
I'm watching Boston College put up almost 300 yards rushing against Florida State's defense.
Florida State had 21 yards rushing in the game. 21.
Yeah, and Boston College had almost 300.
Yeah, I know.
It's horrible.
You talk about a box score. Wow.
Yeah.
Boise State is going to be interesting just because, again, they historically give Pacific Northwest teams absolute fits, though. They always have. Even last year, Washington, they gave them fit for like half a game. Obviously, then Washington pulled away, but Washington had Penix and 2 to 3 NFL caliber wide receivers, just like Oregon faced,
And if LeGarrette Blount is not the honorary team captain on Saturday,
no, please, God, no. Do not. If they pulled out LeGarrette Blount to be a team captain against Boise State, that would be so.
Fans have been calling for it all week.
Jesus. If Sam remembers LeGarrette Blount, a sucker punched the Boise State guy.
Oh no,
09.
I don't remember that. No, and because I'm only in my early 20s. Like I don't.
Okay. In 09, after Oregon lost, it was a. What was it, Spaz? 18-9 or something like that. 18-8.
It was like a 10-point game. We were obviously going to lose the game. It was at Autzen.
No, it was at Boise.
Oh no, it was at Boise.
It was at Boise, and after the game was over, the team were celebrating. The guy was talking smack, and LeGarrette Blount sucker punched one of the linebackers and knocked him out.
Not full.
Laid him out, just cold.
Wow.
And then Chip Kelly suspended him for the rest of the season, basically.
Wow. Yeah, that's I never knew of that. But then again, I would have only been 7 at the time. So
it's one of those infamous punches heard around the college football world at that time.
Well, now I know some Oregon history. I can make that reference if Oregon loses a game in frustrating fashion, or if they win. I can win big. Can say LeGarrette blunted their opponent.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean that's really, when it comes to Oregon, just because I don't want to overreact, that's really what I have to say is you can't panic. See how they do against Boise State. If there are more issues there, especially since Boise State's much better than Idaho, then there are things to be concerned about. And then thankfully, Oregon, they don't have what Michigan does, where Michigan's playing Texas this week. So Michigan had a struggle fest, and there's a pretty good chance that the reason they had that is because they're holding some things back. But there were also some things that just looked, regardless of how vanilla the playbook is, it looked bad. Oregon has time to get any potential issues they have correct, because the first time they'll play a team that is a ranked opponent, that is a top 10, top 15 team, is Ohio State at home in the middle of October.
Yeah, we have already said we should be both Ohio State and should be undefeated. Now, to this last week, especially playing the Beavers, which the Beavers are not the Beavers of last year or the year before, but it's still a rivalry game. Weird things happen in rivalry games, no matter what. Weird things happen. So,
Sam, tell us about Michigan. What were they using the two quarterbacks a lot, or?
They used Orgy a lot for runs, but they really, it feels like either Moore is intentionally messing, like, not that Warren isn't the starting QB, but it feels like he's either trying to excessively mess with Texas and he's going to use Orgy more, but Warren still being the main guy for passing, or that they were hoping they didn't have to play like Orgy at all and Warren just disappointed them a bit. It was interesting.
Yeah, because I popped over a couple times and watched a few plays, and I was like, damn, they're struggling.
Oh yeah. Our tight end was our leading receiver too, except our wide receivers only combined for like less than 40 total yards receiving, and we couldn't hit anything. Warren did make some good throws, but he also made some bad ones. And the offensive line really didn't catch fire until the fourth quarter. And then with Mullings playing more instead of Edwards and Orgy being rotated, and then the O-line all of a sudden looked like Michigan caliber. Like, okay, we have good trenches still. And the defense is the defense. It was awesome.
Yeah, the defense is still defense at Michigan, yeah.
Well, and that's one thing with Oregon, too. I was happy with the defense. The defense only gave up points on a couple trick plays, and that they kind of bid on. But other than that, they shut down Idaho completely. So the defense I was okay with. It was just exactly like with Michigan, maybe. The offense just was out of sync. There was just constant issues, penalties, different little things that maybe can be corrected. You have to wait and see. But yeah, it was just it was hard. It was hard to watch. It was for us.
Yeah. Any takeaways from the Big Ten in general that you guys saw in week one?
I thought really that a lot of the top teams struggled offensively. At least in the first half. Ohio State seemed to struggle in the first half. Michigan had their struggles. Oregon had their struggles. And it's almost like, okay, they're just all the big schools in the Big Ten are just kind of like floating. Obviously, like Michigan has Texas, so they didn't want it the next week. So I don't think they really wanted to show a lot that first week because they wanted to save that for that big game the following week. And that's when you'll be able to really, like you said, you'll really be able to tell. I think it'll be the same thing for us in week 2.
Yeah, it's tough going into a new conference to try to evaluate teams. Iowa obviously still has an amazing defense. They struggled offensively. They struggled offensively at first half. It was like literally like 6 or like 9-0. Yeah, it was like, but then they put up points. Penn State beat down West Virginia. But again, how good is West Virginia really going to be? We don't know. Plus the weather delay, how much that impact the game. But West Virginia was in control, or Penn State was in control rather.
Yeah, they were up 20-6 at the half.
Exactly.
And the fact that they, like with 20 seconds left, scored a touchdown. It's like,
yeah, okay.
Like if you're going to give that up at home before halftime, you're not winning. It's just
fair Detroit. USC actually looked Again, what do you make of those teams? But both of those defenses looked improved between USC and LSU. Both defenses looked vastly improved.
Much better.
So that was a good win for USC.
Yes.
UCLA survived the road trip to Hawaii.
Oh my God.
By 2 points, I think. It was like 16-14 or something like that.
I think at one point Hawaii was shutting them out like 10-0. It's like, Are you serious? Like, I picked you to
Yeah.
go 2-10, but to beat Hawaii, are you gonna like do even worse than that? It's bad. UCLA, though, I don't even blame any of that on Deshaun Foster. I blame that on Kelly leaving them in a poor position and then not even caring about high school recruiting.
Oh yeah, we've said Deshaun Foster, unfortunately, unless he proves us wrong, is a sacrificial lamb for a couple of years to
Yes.
UCLA. Just kind of just good luck.
Yeah, I'm not even going to factor unless they do a phenomenal job. I'm giving him total grace.
Oh yeah. It's not his fault. I mean, he was a running back there. It's his alumni. He's thrilled to have the job. Best of luck to him. But UCLA really just kind of stuck him in a really bad position.
Yeah, I do want to push back a little bit on the USC stuff because I was impressed with them, and I do think Lynn is a genius and a future head coach. If he wants it, of course, because not every elite defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator like Phil Parker at Iowa wants to be a head coach. But both teams still gave up over 400 total yards. Both offenses are bringing in new pieces. USC's O-line looked awful, especially when you consider the fact that LSU has a lot of new pieces on the D-line and are only year one with their new defensive system. And I mean, I predicted USC to win that game since the moment I realized they were playing it. So like months ago, and I still thought after that they wouldn't do well in the Big Ten because I think that even with a new scheme, a better DC, they still have a depth and talent disparity compared to, I mean, they don't play Oregon, but to Oregon and many of these other schools that they play, like Penn State, Michigan. If Wisconsin, I mean, even if Minnesota plays their cards right, they could have better trench play than USC. And then they got Notre Dame in the non-conference. So it's just it's a week one overreaction thing. Like, don't drop Oregon from your top 10. Don't view USC as a top 10, top 15 team. And I see what Troy is saying with the bend but don't break defenses, but those defenses they always break at some point to the elite teams. I mean, even Ohio State, they had a very conservative bend but don't break defense last year. And when they played Michigan, they surrendered a nearly 8-minute drive that led in the game-winning field goal. If they just were a little bit more aggressive or had built themselves to, I don't know, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's year one, and there's it would take an act of God for USC to have a defense that can go toe to toe with like every Big Ten offensive line. That would be like at that point, consider DeAnton Lynn like the Albert Einstein of all defensive coordinators.
And I think that was a good point you made too. Is like, LSU, same as USC, both first-year defensive coordinators, new players. So you didn't know what to expect from both sides. USC just happened to maybe get a little bit of edge, but will that last or be sustainable against other teams? That's a great thing about week one. Don't overreact unless you're FSU. Now you're in panic mode. Shots fired at FSU again.
Exactly.
Shots fired.
They played 2 games, so they have double the sample size as everyone else. It's easier to draw conclusions from Florida State because they have twice
2
the sample
games
size
against crummy teams,
and you're 0-2 in your conference.
Exactly. Like they're not even guaranteed to be in their conference championship if they win out, because
your season's over.
Yeah, like what if? Like, think about it. Even if they beat Clemson and Miami, but if Miami and Clemson, their only conference losses to FSU, they'll get in the championship game over Florida State. Like, Florida State isn't even in control of their own destiny when it comes to anything that matters to them. And it's week one.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's literally just week one and you're already 0-2. That's like, wow. I mean, again, we're in panic mode last week and watching that game. For us, That was non-con, so it didn't affect the Big Ten. But if you're already 0-2 in your own conference against what most people now we could be wrong. Boston College gave Florida State absolute fits last year. Now Bill O'Brien's here, so he's gonna probably elevate it. But I mean, they didn't do anything special. They just ran at Florida State. They saw the game plan from Georgia Tech, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna do this." Boston College and Georgia Tech might be better than you think in the ACC, but I mean, in the sense of it from last year, those are mid-level to lower-level ACC teams.
Yeah. Oh,
overall.
Yeah. And
Yes.
Florida.
Real quick before we let you go, Sam, tell us a little bit about you and your show and
by all means
what you've got going on over there.
All right, I will do that, but just for a few seconds, I want to see something. Oh, yeah. Florida State started the year in ESPN's FPI at number 11. After 2 games, they are down all the way to 36th, and they're projected to basically go 6-6, 5-7. It's just talk about and that's analytics, and analytics are typically very conservative at reacting to teams that have like the star talent that Florida State does in recruiting. That's an utter collapse.
There was a huge rant I saw earlier from someone about the new AP poll because like Oregon dropped, and we expected Oregon to drop in the rankings. After that performance, we expected to get jumped. That's fair, totally understandable. Florida State, obviously, after week 1 was going to drop heavily. Now, after week 1, the second loss, they were going to be out. Vanderbilt has more votes for the AP top 25 than Florida State. Vanderbilt does. I just saw people ranting about it. I was like, are you shocked?
Yeah, exactly. It's like with the way that Florida State has played, they could easily finish with a losing record. And the fact they've dropped that quickly in every power ranking tells you that they're not just losing close games, they're getting game controlled to death and by teams who don't have their talent. So they're getting outworked, outcoached, outplayed. Every box is checked against them. But to answer what you said, Spaz, my channel over here just covers the Big Ten. We occasionally go outside of the Big Ten, like I've touched on the ACC this past week. The Big 12 is going to be something I'll touch on too, some big SEC games, but it's mainly the Big Ten, and some stuff that's also unique to my channel, like some power rankings that I've been working on that are my own, and then doing, when I can, weekly top 25s and updated college football playoff projections and daily videos, occasional live streams, and with a channel that is young like mine, although I don't know if being active for 3 going on 4 years is young anymore, but I'm still trying to make changes and improve things because I want to be the next Josh Pate or Joel Klatt or all these guys. I think I can offer some unique thing that's on par with that. Don't know if that's true or objective, but I think I can. After all, I called Michigan to win the national championship last year. I called them to beat Ohio State. I called Washington to reach the playoff and for them to beat Texas. And, the prior year, I didn't see TCU beating Michigan. Didn't see that coming, but I picked Georgia to beat Ohio State the exact way it happened. And in week 1 of this year, I'm off to a pretty good start. I picked Georgia to smother Clemson 41-17. It was, 34-3. I picked Penn State to beat West Virginia 41-13. It was 34-12. And really, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not here to say that I have the best of the best, but I can say that I have the best Big Ten football content, and that with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and I'm trying to get this way with Oregon, but it's their first year in the Big Ten and really only my second year of following them. I'm trying to become a full-blown expert on all of those teams, because when October and November come around this year and more importantly, perhaps December and January, I want to be spot on. And there's going to be awesome football to follow. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the Big Ten, as bad as it looked this first week, is going to be involved. Because outside of Georgia and maybe Alabama, but there are questions, even with those teams, the Big Ten and a lot of teams in the country are in contention. I mean, I don't see any team in college football this year being at the level of Georgia in 21 or 22 or even Michigan last year. I don't see anyone being as dominant as those teams. Maybe Georgia, but Clemson's one-dimensional, and it took Georgia about 2.5 quarters to finally figure out their way around a Clemson defense that isn't going to be as good as last year's unit. So I'm very passionate about the sport, and I'm hoping for more growth.
No, you're going to get it. You've already been, like you said, as soon as football season's already been back, you've already been growing more already again. And the offseason sucks. The offseason sucks. We've been here dealing with it too. And we're like, man, it's rough.
Yeah. It's it's interesting because of where I am with like school and stuff. The off season especially can be inconsistent, but I don't think that'll be the case moving forward because there's, just some things like the live streams that I started this week that'll be going on forever. Not the same amount every week, but there'll be check-ins and different things. Armand knows, whose comment you're highlighting. He's a longtime follower of my channel. Yeah, which is funny because he's a Clemson North Carolina guy, and I only occasionally touch on those teams if I have to.
Well,
that
so
seems contradictory.
Michigan, Texas this week.
Oh, what's my thoughts on that game? I think Texas preseason, I thought that Texas was pretty overrated, and there's a part of me who still thinks that, like, relative to them being a elite team, I think they have too many holes on defense and even enough questions on offense, particularly with their ceiling with Ewers, as to like, I wouldn't pick them to even play Georgia within a score anywhere, even if they were in like a stadium with like 300,000 angry Texas fans. I'd pick Georgia to win by double digits because I think Georgia's that good. And I think Texas has some issues. But this past week with Warren, a lot of it was Orji just not being the quarterback. That messed with my whole prediction because I thought Orji was a lock to win the job, and then he wasn't. And Michigan's offense is more built for a spread option quarterback who can just make his first read or occasionally go to a second than it is for a statue. Like we kind of transitioned away from that when Cade McNamara left for Iowa. And then Texas looked really good against Colorado State. I knew that Colorado State had Torrey Horton. I think Jay Norvell is a good coach. And to shut them out and then for Michigan to look the way they did against Fresno State indicated to me that that Texas, I believe, maybe it's an overreaction, but I don't think it is. I think they're better than Michigan on a neutral field. But I think that the weather is going to be low 60s, maybe upper 50s. It may rain. The winds are going to be 10, 20 miles per hour. That's Michigan conditions. But more importantly, Michigan plays in a stadium that's big. Stadium is probably closer to +7 in point value than the typical Vegas home field advantage spread of +3. Michigan should be able to run the ball. They have one of the nation's best defenses. Their defense probably has the nation's highest ceiling with how good their defensive line is and linebackers as well. And I'm picking Michigan 23-20. But I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan loses because of how much turnover they face. And because Texas is really good. I mean, the way they beat Colorado State when they lose as much as they do on the defensive line, on your receivers and passing offense, and then they're down at running back was impressive, honestly. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be certainly a game of the year type game where it isn't over until the clock hits 0. But I think Michigan wins. I think they've shown that historically they're the tougher team. They're more the clutch team. And by historically, I really just mean in the tenure, like the late Harbaugh years or the Harbaugh years in 21, 22, and 23. And then when Sark's been at Texas, Michigan's been tougher. They've been the better developmental team, and they're at home. If this game was in Texas, I'd pick the Longhorns probably by double digits to just eventually outlast Michigan. Different weather, and more importantly, Michigan being a new team on the road is not going to do them any favors. But I think at home field advantage helps a ton, especially with teams that have huge fan bases and big stadiums. And on top of that, Michigan has a matchup advantage. I think they have the better overall trench play. And that's it.
Yeah, and they it's weird it's a home game, and yet they're 7.5-point underdogs right now.
Yeah.
Kinda high.
Well, I would think that if not for, and maybe I'm reading this wrong because I'm not a betting expert, but the public perception is that Michigan will lose this game by double digits. So I think there is a bit of hedging bets on the fact that Vegas is like refusing to. They're trying as hard as possible to not make this a double digit spread. I talked with a Texas fan on my show today that you guys were a part of, and he's a Texas fan. He's a very good sports bettor. He basically said if this becomes a Texas being favored by double digits, he's putting like a bunch of his money on Michigan to cover that spread. And he's a believer in Texas, believer in Sark. He's picked Texas to win the game outright, but he thinks it's possible, but does not believe that, especially with these conditions, that Texas is going to walk in and win by double digits. And I agree with him.
Is there a storm coming in this weekend?
What?
Is there a storm coming in this weekend in Michigan?
Maybe. There's only a 20% chance of rain, but there's 10, 20 mile per hour winds. Texas is, 90s, 80s. From Michigan this weekend, it's going to be in the 60s. So there's, travel, weather change. More importantly, it's just the style of play. Like Michigan's defense is going to get pressure on you. More importantly,
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
They'll shut down the run. And they have Will Johnson to at least limit some of Texas's receiver production. And they have good enough running backs and offensive linemen to where unless Texas reloads on that D line, they should be able to put some drives together.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I the weather thing, I get it. Luckily for Texas, it is early because, like I told you in an email, I live in Texas, so I know all about the heat. But I've lived in North Dakota before too, so I've dealt with winters. So it's a good time of the year if you're having to travel from the south to the north. At least it's a decent time of the year. It's not like you're going to snow all of a sudden. At least.
Oh yeah. If this was snow, I would be extremely confident that Michigan would win if this was winter conditions.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of the weather when making my prediction, and that didn't really change it. It just kind of like gave me like a little bit more confidence, but that's about it.
So in customary fashion too, because I know, again, like you said, you were going to be a little short on time, and you've given us quite a bit of time tonight. And again, 100% appreciate all the time you give. What we always like to do is with everyone, we do it weekly, and we just for pride, for no reason. I suck at this. Spaz?
Yes.
I think it's score prediction time. And in customary fashion, I like to let our guests do a score prediction for the game coming up this week. I don't know if Sam's even thought about it. I really didn't think about it or ask him to come up with a thing. But Oregon, Boise State, do you have a score prediction?
No, I'm doing a preview and prediction on it probably in the next 2 days. So by then I'll come up with it. I don't have it right now. I'll tell you, I'm picking Oregon to win, and I'm probably going to lean for them to win by more than 3 touchdowns. But that's just a thought. Because in my mind, it's one of the bigger games in the Big Ten this week because the slate's extremely weak outside of Texas and Michigan in the Big Ten. I do want to watch some of what Boise State did against Georgia Southern before making that.
It's fair. I had to watch the highlight. I watched the full extended highlight earlier, and that's why I said that running back, watch him. He bounces off guys. I'm like, hopefully we tackle better. Hopefully we tackle better than
400
Georgia
yards
Southern
on the
does.
ground.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, thank you very much for having me on. It is 11 p.m. in my area. I probably think I should get going, but I really appreciate what you guys have done tonight and for inviting me on. I very much appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you for coming on and taking the time because you just did another show before this. So, I mean,
Yeah, I've done basically 2 hours of shows today.
There you go. Hey, that's tiring. Trust me, I do this stuff. It's tiring. It wears you out. People don't understand it. It does. But everyone, College Football Sam, I've dropped his link in the chat a couple times. It's in the description of this video. Definitely go check out his material as he covers the Big Ten and then other stuff. And best of luck to Michigan this weekend. And God, Oregon, please.
Yeah. Go Ducks and best of luck to Oregon this weekend. I'll see you guys.
All right. Thanks, Sam.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. That's College Football with Sam. Definitely go check him out. Again, the link is in the description of this video. I figured I kind of did put him on the spot there. I wasn't trying to do that. But Spaz, you're on the spot. Score prediction, bitch. Is that the first time I've sworn tonight? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Mark would be so proud. I haven't thought about it either, to be honest. I'll go first. You went first last week, so I'll go first tonight. I haven't thought about it either, really. I'm going to be a little more casual tonight. I'm going to say 42-20 Oregon.
Oof.
It's still decent. I'm going to go 42-20. I'm going to be more I don't know if that's more optimistic or more cautious. I'm not sure.
I'm going to say 47-24.
I mean, what are we playing? The Price is Right? I'll have to watch I'll watch Sam's preview in a couple days. Then when it comes out, and I'll write his score prediction down in the notebook.
And once again, our quitters didn't show. Par for the course.
Because I called him a name in text. I won't say it on stream, but that might have run him off. I don't know.
They called him a wussy. He didn't even come in.
It rhymes. It rhymes with wussy. Yes.
Yes.
Spaz, do you have any final thoughts? Because Boise State is, again, Oregon's never beat Boise State. Oddly enough, again, we've never beat Boise State. And 2017 was the Vegas. Jesus, sorry. The Vegas Bowl, that was a weird one because that was Taggart leaving, Cristobal taking over as interim before being hired on full. That was kind of a weird game in itself, but we've never beat Boise State.
I think we'll be fine. Like I said, I think some issues will be ironed out. Boise State's got a decent offense, so I think they'll put up a few points. We both kind of figured that. But I mean, who knows? Dan Lanning, this guy's so mad and fired up that Oregon comes out and just smacks the poop out of them, 52-10 or something, who knows?
We have no idea how this is going to go. I'm very optimistic, but at the same time, cautious and realistic also, because Boise State has the history of giving us fits, and all Pac-12 North teams especially. And after that performance from Idaho, I was more optimistic with Dan Lanning, specifically saying a lot of the issues were communication on the line, shifting people around. So there was miscommunications between the O-linemen. So hopefully they have focused just to fix those things. But at the same time, you just don't know. Boise State's going to be fired up to come in also at this game. So you just don't know how it's going to. What the hell are you doing?
Messing with my
It's like, what are you
light.
doing?
Trying to see where it turns on.
These are the things that happen during live streams. He tries to figure out how the light works.
Yeah,
You grab a metal fork and you stick it in an electrical socket. Don't do that. Don't do that. Everyone watching, do not do that.
yeah, I don't know where the.
Oh God.
I was trying to.
Jeez. This is something you figure out before we go live.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here. There.
Any final thoughts on Spaz on Boise State coming up this week? Because it is a late game.
This could be an issue.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you don't have something plugged in, that's also an issue. Never mind. Take the fork and stick in the electrical socket. You deserve it.
Oh, shit. We got him.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
Where's Mrs. Spaz to slap you?
Oh, shit.
This is one of the only late games this year. Hopefully, though, one of the late ones. Because 9
well,
p.m.
we have
Central
one more,
on
Michigan
Peacock.
State.
Well, yeah, okay. But this week is 9 p.m. Central on Peacock, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's gonna be, oh God, that means it's like a 12:30 post game for me. 12:30 a.m. post game. Not again. I won't fall asleep like I did last year the year before during Stanford.
Yeah.
Before the post game, I won't fall asleep this year. I promise.
I'll get on the live and I'll see Ben.
Well, no, last time I fell asleep like that Stanford game, I fell asleep in like the mid third quarter. I woke up like 4 hours later, and it was still like waiting for me to go live. I was like, "Whoops!" It never happened. God. At least it's Saturday night. So.
Yeah, nobody showed up tonight. What is going on?
I don't know. We have a bunch of quitters.
No Tony, no nothing.
Oh, those people. I thought you meant our other co-host. But yeah, any final thoughts, Spaz, with Boise State, real quick, and then I think we'll get the fuck out of here.
No, yeah. Next week, I think we should switch to Wednesdays.
Next week, Wednesdays. Okay, I can work with that.
Because this guy just keeps going for hours.
Oh, I know. He's on tomorrow night. But he's on tomorrow night too.
Is he?
Yeah. We're not competing with Sports Chat 503. We're not competing with Sports Chat 503. Because he's on tomorrow night. He's on tomorrow night again too.
Ryan Winters, you need to make room for us. God damn it.
Yeah, he's on tomorrow night too. So next week though, we can move to Wednesday if you want. Just remind me. And next week I might try to bring on a very special guest who knows the history of Oregon versus Oregon State to come talk to us. I think that would be a good time to do it. Talk about the rivalry.
Yeah. If we can get any of the players, maybe do a couple next week.
There you go. Well, all I can say is I hope the issues on the O-line are fixed. If the issues on the O-line get fixed, that will help Gabriel a lot, which will help the passing offense and the rushing offense. The defense is fine. I have no problems with that. Boise State's a different challenge, but I feel confident in this. We've given the score predictions pretty similar. I'm confident. I'm not stressing this. Not a night game at Autzen.
Oh God, and we're dealing with those guys too. Wonder we ain't got nobody.
Well, then any final words, Spaz, for this week before we get into the weekend?
No. 9 watching.
Yes.
End this shit.
Wow. Rude. I guess that was ranting with Spaz. I should have pulled that up when you started.
We got USC doing their show right now, and they're on cloud 29. Oh, we're going to the Natty.
Oh, that's Colorado fans too.
And we have Ryan doing his sports chat show. So yeah, we found out where all our listeners are. Traders.
There are people here. That's all that matters right now. And we're here for them because we're here to talk Oregon ball, like we say in the Boise State preview. And so again, everyone, thank you for joining tonight as we went over a bunch of stuff with college football with Sam. Appreciate him for taking the time to do it. He's had a busy evening, obviously, getting off one stream right to come to ours, basically. So check us out next week. We'll move next week to Wednesday. We'll move it to Wednesday next week. Same time, but next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Then we'll move it to next Wednesday. So make sure to join us next Wednesday right here at 9. It'll be like 9:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific. And then make sure you check out the Oregon post game right here following the Boise State game, even though it'll be fucking late as shit for me.
10:30 to 12:31 your time.
Yeah, so it'll be almost 1 a.m. basically.
Yeah.
Hey, do what you gotta do, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, we've got another one in a couple of weeks. It'll be about 11:30, 12 your time.
That's fine.
And it'll be a Friday night.
That's fine because I have a concert Saturday night, so it doesn't interfere. Like I said, it's sweet.
Yeah.
Works out perfectly. So, everyone, once again, thank you. Make sure to join us next Wednesday. Hit the notification bell. That's way you know when we're going live. And then make sure to watch the post game. You will see it previewed and scheduled a couple days in advance before the game. And come join us to talk about the game. Other than that, Spaz.
Hit that like and subscribe button down below as well, folks.
Oh, I was just going to tell you, shut the hell up. And thank you very much for being here. Good night, everyone.